It was a gray morning, the kind where the sky hung low and silent, like it was morning too. Eleanor Grayson, one of the richest women in America, stepped out of her sleek black car at Rosewood Memorial Cemetery. She wore a crisp charcoal coat and dark sunglasses, not to hide from the press, but from the ache that never really left her eyes. It had been 6 years since she buried her only child, Daniel, after a tragic car accident. He was just 23. She visited his grave every year on his birthday. No cameras. No assistants. Just her and the silence that swallowed her whole. But this morning was different. As she walked down the gravel path lined with dew-soaked roses, Eleanor noticed someone kneeling at her son's grave. A young black woman, wearing a faded diner uniform, was holding a little boy no older than 4. Both were crying. The woman's shoulders shook as she whispered something Eleanor couldn't hear. Eleanor froze. She had never seen anyone at Daniel's grave before. Confusion flickered across her face. Was it a mistake? A coincidence? She slowly approached, trying to keep her composure. "Excuse me," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "This is my son's grave." The woman turned, startled, and quickly wiped her tears. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I just..." Eleanor's eyes dropped to the little boy clinging to the woman's arm. He looked up with wide, innocent eyes and offered her a crumpled paper flower. "I'm sorry," the woman continued. "This is Elijah. And I'm Maya. I didn't know he was your son. I needed to say thank you." Eleanor's brow furrowed. "Thank you," she echoed. Maya stood up slowly, brushing the grass from her knees. "You don't know me, ma'am. But 6 years ago, your son changed my life." Eleanor's chest tightened. "Go on," she said softly, lowering her sunglasses. Maya took a shaky breath. "I was working the night shift at Benny's diner, barely scraping by, pregnant, no support. One night, your son came in, soaked from the rain. I recognized him. Everyone knew who Daniel Grayson was. But he didn't act like someone rich or famous. He sat at the counter, ordered pancakes, and asked me if I was okay." She paused, her voice cracking. "I don't know why, but I told him everything. About the father who left. About how I was going to drop out of school to work more hours. I cried right there in front of him." Eleanor swallowed hard. "And then," Maya continued, "he left me a note with a $500 tip. It said, 'This isn't charity. This is belief. Finish school. Be amazing. You're already doing great.' And a few days later, someone anonymously paid off my community college tuition. I never knew for sure, but I had a feeling it was him." Tears were running freely down Maya's face now. "That act of kindness. It saved my life. I graduated. I got a job. I'm still working at the diner, but now I'm studying part-time for a teaching degree. And Elijah? I tell him every night about the angel who helped his mommy." Elijah stepped forward, holding the paper flower out again. "I made this for him. Thank you for sharing your son with us." Eleanor reached out, trembling, and took the paper flower. Her heart, once dulled by grief and wealth, cracked open. "I didn't know," she whispered, tears welling up behind her eyes. "I never knew the kind of man he was becoming." For a long moment, the three stood in silence beside the stone that bore Daniel's name. The wind whispered through the trees, and Eleanor felt something she hadn't in years: peace. Later that day, Eleanor invited Maya and Elijah to lunch. Over coffee and grilled cheese, she listened, really listened, for the first time in years. She saw in Maya something she hadn't seen in herself for a long time: resilience, strength, hope. That evening, Eleanor made a decision. She established the Daniel Grayson Foundation. A scholarship and support initiative for single parents pursuing education. The first full scholarship went to Maya, along with a job offer to help lead the foundation's community outreach. She would help others like her. She would be the bridge between two worlds, one of wealth, the other of struggle, connected by a young man who had died too soon, but had left behind something priceless. Months passed. Maya flourished. Elijah grew. Eleanor found herself laughing more, living more, even visiting the diner sometimes, where she was known not as a billionaire, but simply as Miss Ellie, the nice lady who always tipped big and asked about people's kids. Each year, on Daniel's birthday, Eleanor and Maya would visit the grave together, bringing fresh flowers and handmade gifts from Elijah. It became a tradition, a quiet celebration not of loss, but of legacy. And slowly, the graveyard stopped feeling like an end. It became a beginning. Eleanor once thought she had nothing left to give the world after Daniel died. But standing beside a young woman who rose from nothing, and a child who called her Granny Ellie without hesitation, she realized something profound. Grief does not end. But neither does love. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments, the waitress at your son's grave, the crumpled paper flower, become the turning points that remind us what truly matters. Because compassion doesn't require millions. It just requires showing up. And when we do, lives change, sometimes forever. Final message. Let this story be a reminder that kindness doesn't need a stage, and generosity doesn't need applause. One quiet moment of empathy can ripple through generations. Whether you have wealth or just a willing heart, never underestimate the power of showing up for someone. There are people we've never met whose lives we're meant to touch. And sometimes, they find us in the most unexpected places.